Lions, take 2. We're sitting here on November 24th, 1987, and we're talking to Mr. Matt Davis. Hi, Mr. Davis. How are you?
I'm fine.
And what is this? You worked on the Lions Gate Bridge, did you not?
I did, yes.
And what was it like working on the bridge?
Well, it was really, it was fun those days in one way, and we were working at the same time. It was something different.
What sort of wages were you paid working on the bridge?
They started out to pay us 40 cents an hour, and we sort of kind of got together, and we were going to sort of go on this little strike, and they raised our pay to 50 cents. So we got 50 cents. That's all the workmen on there got 50 cents. Carpenters got 75 cents for doing the high going up there. I didn't have my tools, or I was a carpenter, but I didn't have tools with me. So I didn't take a job as a carpenter, I just went as a helper.
Why did they build the Lions Gate Bridge?
They built the Lions Gate Bridge mostly to sell the British properties up on the, what company is it?
Gillis Breweries.
Gillis.
Oh, this is Mrs. Davis here, and you are Matt's wife, and she lives in the house too. They're a family.
And Gillis's they were the brewing company, and they built the bridge to mostly sell the British properties. And they
did sell the British properties.
And they did.
And with the British properties, they did not want. You live on Leyland Drive here. We're in Leyland Drive in West Van. And what is the significance of Leyland to do with the bridge? Reeve Leyland.
No.
Did he have anything to do with it?
Did I have what?
Did Reeve Leyland?
Oh yes. He was the mayor of West Vancouver at that time, and he'd been in for a few years, but they'd been trying to get a sanction to put the bridge across 11 years before. So that's what I was told, and they had the steel cut. The steel was all cut for that, but to build the bridge, but they wouldn't allow them to put across the water there till West Van Cape. They wouldn't let to it. So Reeve Leyland gave them the first sanction to put it across, and that was 11 years after it was supposed to be built.
And how much did the bridge cost to make?
Well, the cost of the bridge was supposed to be $6 million to start with. They thought they might have to do Sandhagen, and Sandhagen is very expensive those days. People had to go down there, they had to go to a doctor right after and that sort of thing. And so they didn't have to do a lot of that. We did the work. They put down a big tank, just like a well crib, made so we could work inside. So to grout out the bottom, we went down a ladder, a shaft, and worked 40 feet below the water to clear the rock down below to make it level.
Are these? We just have some pictures here. Is this of let's show that there. Is that what you guys were doing? Is that part of what digging the hole?
That's part of it.
That's
yes.
Is that you there?
No, not me, but I was down there. I worked on the ship down there. One another, all around there, and they're all laid like this, you see, and they're all laid on top of one another, just like we used to do well cribs in the prairies. We used to make a well crib and drop it down in a 50-foot well in sections, and they did that there. And then it was grouted outside, just like they grout ships, so the water wouldn't get in.
And was this the final product? Is that what was for?
Yes, that's the final product.
That's the final product. And
Yeah.
so you actually climbed down inside these grouted out wells,
Yeah, right
and were
down.
working in there,
Yeah.
and then you poured the foundations in.
Yeah, well, we didn't pour it right there, but while we were working on it, we had to get it all grouted out there first. And then when they got this funnel, steel funnel, they set it down inside there, and then they poured cement all around it. They were going to pull it out that day, and I told them, I said, well, listen, if you take that ladder out, I'll go out now. Not gonna work.
You wouldn't want to be trapped down there,
I
would
don't
you?
want to be trapped. So that day it did spring a leak one day when we were down there.
Uh-oh.
And we had to crawl up this ladder, and the water followed us up that fast that we were the last man coming up to the top, and the water was right up behind us, to the level of the sea again. That's 40 feet. Like when it was low, high tide is 40 feet. And, but then, that was, we didn't have too many accidents. Pretty good, pretty lucky on that bridge. We only had one accident, and that's when we were digging the hole up above to put the cable in. One of the boys it caved in when they were digging it, and a big rock caved in, and he went to the hospital. He died in the hospital. He didn't die on the bridge, but he was a prairie boy, and he just got squeezed.
Yeah, squeezed a bit too much.
Yeah.
We have this picture here, right here, and now this shows the construction of the bridge. This shows the construction. What parts were done first?
Well,
Was it?
they do the lower section. They done these lower sections first. That's where we worked in there. That was
where you were
the
working
south
in the well.
side, 40
Yeah.
feet. Then on this side, I didn't work so much on that, but they had a crew working over there too, and they went 95 feet down there, approximately 95. I would
Deep.
say. Deep, in quicksand and rock. But the way they did it,
Quicksand.
it was they built the same structure as they did here, only they built it on a square, and they kept dropping it down. And they'd build, they'd take 2 or 3 days, and they'd build up 12 feet at a time, maybe. 12 or 14 feet, not approximately.
And this is on this north end
That's
of the bridge.
on the northern pier. What do they call them?
I think we have the north end, so that would be,
Here, this one.
yeah, that end
So
over there.
they kept, and then each day they'd put a machine in there. When they got it down far enough, then it dropped down that so far. Then they grout it out again, all that stuff out from the inside to let it go down, let it go down more. And each day they dropped it down till they hit hard pan. Well, when they got down to the bottom, they hit rock there, which was a little on the slant, so they had trouble there. It was a little while before they got that straightened out, because there was nobody working down in there. We couldn't work down there because there was just mud and stuff coming in, the water. And they kept climbing it out and dropping it down, so eventually they got some more system. They done something down there anyway, and they got it fixed up. So and they poured cement right down there. See?
Yeah. First person to walk over the bridge, Mr. Davis.
Well, I was one of them.
One of them.
Another friend of mine with me, and he went to North Van and I went to West Van. The two of us was the first two to walk across on the catwalk.
On the catwalk. Now, what was the catwalk?
The catwalk was made up of 4 cables, 2 running up above to hang on, and the 2 below with hooks on that, and they slid the 6-inch planks down there. I think they were 6-inch, and they were side to side, and they left 4 planks out for wherever they put a cable up, where the cables go in to go down from the cable, from the big main cable down to the bridge when they hung in.
That was pretty high up, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's 200 feet above the bridge. I think from the bridge, where the level of the bridge was, to the top of one of those, supposed to be 200 feet approximately. There might be one either way. And down below the bridge was 200 feet to the water at a certain tide. And so that was like 400 feet from the water up to the top.
Do you think here, there's this postcard we have here. This is from your own personal collection. You have some, and on this postcard, it says, Lionsgate Bridge. The Lionsgate Bridge forms an impressive entrance to the Vancouver Harbour, the greatest suspension in the British Empire. Is it true? Was it the greatest suspension in the British Empire?
Well, we thought so at the time. We thought so at the time when we were building it.
And I've often heard that there is a secret underground tunnel going underneath, a service road underneath the bridge, underneath the water. Have you heard anything about that? A tunnel underneath the bridge.
No.
Like a service tunnel. Is that?
They had a service. No, they didn't have a tunnel that I know.
They had no tunnel underneath the bridge.
The only thing is they had a ferry. It took us back and forwards across.
Because the workers...
A little ferry belonged to the company. Just a boat. Because
most of the workers were living in Vancouver?
Well, a lot of them were. A lot of us lived over. There was quite a few in West Van too. West Van and North Van. And the biggest part of them lived in Vancouver. There must have been, I would say, about 400 men working on there anyway, I guess.
What?
And this hole back there was dug in, and all these irons was in there, all around there. And then those, there's irons, those three or four irons in three, you can see those, where they come through there. They went back in there, way back in there, about 12 feet in the concrete. That's what's holding the bridge up.
That's holding the actual suspension part of the bridge up.
That's the main part of the bridge.
And that's
one on each end.
One on each end, and that's at this. Whereabouts would that be on this picture?
Oh, it's right down below the cable. Right, it goes underneath here. Right down the ground.
How strong is it? Like, could this withstand an earthquake? Mr. Davis, how earthquake-proof is the Lionsgate Bridge? Like, could it withstand very much pressure? Is it strong?
Well...
Will it fall down?
As far as I'm concerned, I'm not an engineer, mind you. I can't tell you that question. I can't answer too closely, but as far as I know, from my own point of view, it would be strong enough to stand a pretty strong earthquake, as far as I know.
The cables are made up, let's zero in on that there. The cables are made of an interesting sort of material. What is that?
Yeah. Well, each wire is laid alongside of one another, and there's 60 cables and 60 wires in that cable. And that's in one of the cables. There's 60 wires all alongside of one another, all straight. And then when it was being built, they put it all together, and they put a kind of a thick yellow paint underneath there, and then it was all stuck in there, and then they put burlap. They cut burlap in quarters. I have a piece downstairs. I should have brought it up. And this burlap sits in one quarter on that side, one quarter on this side, one quarter on this side, right around that. And then they wrapped it with another machine. They had a machine went around there and wrapped that wire around and around, and that's as strong as one of these wires here, that wire. And so it has 61 cables on each one of them, and there's supposed to be 9 in there as far as I know. And 9 of those ropes, like it's just like a long rope. And they're all glued in there, and they're all tight in there, and then they put this burlap over, and they stick this gluey paint on it again, and wrapped it with this wire, and then they wrapped it again with, then they wrapped it, I think they did it the second time over it, I believe. I think they put 2 wires on, I'm not too sure about that.
What sort of changes have been done to the bridge? How has the Lionsgate Bridge changed? Like, if you were to drive over it today, well, how would you say it's different from 1938? Is the bridge the same as it was in 1987 here as it was?
So far as I know, it's they've given they have widened this end. They widened it at this end. They put when they DP over, and then they, of course, it was in the making anyway when they took over. They were going to widen it, so they widened it so they could put a sidewalk right down each side and make more room for the cars to come. They haven't done the main bridge yet because we're going to take the sidewalks out and lay new steel in there. But that hasn't been done yet, as far as I'm concerned. No. And I think it's still in the making. I don't know what's happening about that. No, I haven't talked to too many about it. But anyway, they were going to make it the same as the north approach, all the way across, the same size.
But they did not.
But they haven't got that part in the middle down yet. Not the bridge, the main bridge part.
Well, that's really
And I think that they have changed it. They got an extra lane in there, which when it was built was only built for a 2-lane bridge, as far as I know. And I quote that they only built it for a 2-lane bridge, and I quote that they've got 3 lanes out of it. The bridge is strong enough for 4 lanes, for that matter.
Well, I was just sort of puzzled by this sort of picture here, and it sort of shows something being suspended from the bridge. Do you see it goes?
That's the. You mean this part? Well, that's when they're laying the bridge. You see. That's the steel part. You see, after they got the catwalk up, then they hooked this up to a center lane, and then they dropped them down into place where they were. That's the main bridge part, and they dropped that down the line gate. I wasn't on that end of it, so I don't know too much about the steel, that part right there.
How did they get that large thing up there?
Well, they took it.
That would be sort of hard to.
They had scows underneath, and they were pulled up with a steam boiler on each end. They had a steam boiler on each end, and they had the 2 tables from over come down the cables and come down there and pick that up and hook it onto the center of these cables. And while they were holding it, and it went down in there. But I guess they had the main cable up there then.
Did the people working on the bridge, had they worked on bridges before? Did they know about working on bridges?
Most of us didn't. Most of us from the prairie farms.
From the prairie farms?
Yeah.
How about, of course, the engineers must have known.
There was quite a few engineers on there, but mind you, as far as the Dominion Steel, they had the main contract. They had the most engineers on there, and they knew what they were doing, because a fellow by the name of Cy Carpenter, he was the head superintendent on the steel, and he certainly knew what they were doing. They put that up in sections in the center.
They did a fine job too.
Yeah.
And you have some personal photographs over there of the bridge.
Yes.
This is some personal effects. These are some of your personal effects here of the bridge.
Yeah.
What is happening? I'm sort of puzzled by what is happening here. What is that picture all about there?
That's as far as I understand, it's one of the it's where they're working on this end here, where they dropped in where they put the cables in, as far as I know. I think this is where they put in. And
that there, is that you, Mr. Davis?
No, I think that's, I think that fellow's name is Mr. Way. I think he's one of the superintendents.
Are many of the people that worked on the bridge with you? Have you been talking to them, keeping up with them? Any of your bridge fellow workers? Are any of them still alive?
I have, at least there's one fellow living out at White Rock, Charlie Phillips, and one fellow living at Ray McKenzie. He's living out at Oliver, and my brother and I, and a fellow by the name of Crandall, he's living over in Comox, and as far as I know, there's really real personal fellows that we used to go around together with. There's quite a few other fellows on there. I don't know about them, of course. There's some of them passed on. 1 or 2 fellows here in West Van are not living that worked with us. But other than that, I can't tell you how many would be living. There might be 50% of them still alive. I don't know. They could be.
Well, I can see the fire is sort of dwindling down there. It's sort of so maybe it's sort of our discussion is coming to sort of and symbolized by the fire dwindling down. But you were also played Santa Claus too, didn't you? Does that have anything to do with Lionsgate Bridge?
Yeah. Well, that was after, of course.
You were Santa Claus for 18 years. You played Santa Claus.
Well, I worked for the school board in West Van for 18 years. I retired from 45. And
did any famous people sit on your?
No, after I retired, I answered the Ned in Woodworth for part-time help, and that's what I got, a job playing Santa Claus.
Well, that was. And anybody famous sit on your lap? Like, do you remember anybody famous sitting on it? Like.
Oh yeah, I have a daughter that was sat in my lap when she was a baby, and she's 18-year-old now.
Oh,
My daughter, my son's oldest.
Oh, you're thinking of
Huh?
that was your granddaughter.
My granddaughter, I should say.
I'm confused.
Yeah, I made a mistake there.
And Mrs. Davis, you've been. What was your first vision of the bridge? Like when you first heard it, they were putting in a bridge, or you first saw the bridge. What did you think? Did you think there'd be any change to West Van or North Shore? Were people worried?
Well, I came to West Vancouver in 1st of October in 1937, and they were just starting to build the bridge then. So I didn't know very much of what happened beforehand. But I watched the bridge grow and get built. I didn't know Mr. Davis at that time.
But you met him when he was playing Santa Claus?
Oh, no.
No?
No. It was after the bridge was finished. We met at the West Van United Church.
And do you think people in West Van liked the bridge? Did they like the idea of having a bridge? Like, were people angry that Stanley Park was getting wrecked?
No, it wasn't that. We liked the ferry.
You liked the ferry?
Yes, I liked the ferry very much when I first came here.
Did you like the sea bus?
Yes.
Yeah.
The little ferries to Hollywood, and it was nice. We liked the ferry, but the bridge, of course, made things faster.
And you've been living in this house for how long have you been living in this house?
38 years.
38 years. Mm-hmm. And Mr. Davis built this house? Or
yes.
He did?
Yeah. We moved into it before it was finished. We got it finished.
Well, it's really nice. It's really interesting. Like, you got a lot of nice piano there, real nice ones.
That was my mother's piano. We got that from England with us.
Davis, people have jumped off the Lionsgate Bridge before, have they not?
Yes.
Why? Or have you known anybody that's jumped off the bridge?
I don't know him personally, but he came up there from after a drunk overnight. I guess he was still the worst of liquor when he jumped off the bridge. Took off his overcoat, and he jumped off the middle of the bridge and down into the water. The tide was going out so fast, and there was a ferry just went through underneath the bridge, and they were about half a mile down, and they saw the guy on the back. They saw him saw the fellow jump off the bridge, somebody on there, and this fellow throws his overcoat off on the back of the ferry, jumped off and swam after him. And he was just a local fellow. And matter of fact, he married one of the West Vancouver girls later.
Ooh.
But anyway, ferry turned right around and went down. It was about 2 miles down there before it got around the body. The tide was going out so fast. And he jumped down there and hit the water, and hitting the water going down and them being limps, he hit the water and the tide going out. That's all that saved him from being killed. And they picked him up and put him in a rowboat. The ferry delivered a boat on the water, and they put it down there. And as they went around there, the fellow that swam after him got him and put him into the little boat, and they got him onto the ferry, and they took him into the
So he was the first person to jump off the bridge, probably, and and he survived too.
And he still lived.
And he still lived.
And he was offered a job in Hollywood. He was offered a job in Hollywood after
A job in Hollywood?
Yeah. And he turned it down, went back out to the woods.
Oh,
And he went back out in the woods. I understand he just died here a couple of years ago, came back into Vancouver.
Because he jumped off the bridge. He got a job in Hollywood.
He could have got a job. He didn't get it.
Well, we'd like to thank you, Mr. Davis, and Mrs. Davis, for being part of our little Hollywood here, our little presentation. We'd like to thank Glenn, too, for filming it. And we wish you luck in the future of in writing your memoirs up, perhaps.
Yeah.
Something like that. So thanks for speaking to me. That's great.
Think I'll give you enough literature on it?
Yeah, that's great. The Lionsgate Bridge, the greatest.